Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today for Leading and Succeeding with Your Distributors. I'm Laura Lodge with A Brewery, and I just want to take a minute before our fantastic guest Andy Mansinne takes the stage to thank craft beer professionals for partnering with us in this fantastic educational webinar series. There are several that are in our archives, and you can find those either on our YouTube channel for A Brewery or in the Craft Beer Professionals YouTube archives as well. And you can find them on our Event Hub page. We have lots of really great information there. Thank you to Andrew. Thank you to Amanda for covering for Andrew today and making this possible. Andy will cover housekeeping for today, but I just wanted to say how excited I am to learn more. Distribution is where I started in my craft beer adventure, and so it's really exciting to hear from somebody with the experience and the vast variety of experience that Andy has. So thank you again to Andrew, to Amanda, and to Andy for being here. And Andy, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Laura. I really appreciate it. And good afternoon, everybody. I'm Andy Mansinne. I'm the founder and president of Brand Elixir Partnership. Before I dive into the 7 million slides here, on your screen, you have the ability to, ask questions, and as I'm going through, and I encourage you to do that. We're going to hold the Q&A to the end of my presentation, just for efficiency's sake. But don't hesitate as we're going through. If something pops up in your mind, you want to ask a question, just jot it down there, and we'll keep track of it. So anyway, as I said, I'm part of a group called Brand Elixir Partnership, and there's 4 of us. Myself, Joe Cars, Greg Vogler, and Jeff Musial. All of us are not only colleagues, but are pretty close friends. We've known each other for going on decades now, but we all come from the beverage alcohol industry, and we all come from different skill sets, which I think makes, and I'm not going to be commercially crass here, but makes Brand Elixir kind of a special place, because we come at the same problem with a lot of different ways to think about it. And just briefly, Jeff Musial is 35 years in marketing, but primarily brand insights and market research. And I had the pleasure of working with him when we were both at Brown-Forman. And he was my one-man marketing research team at MGP. Greg is a creative through and through, has worked with some of the best ad agencies in the universe, has done beer, wine, and distilled spirits. He's out of St. Louis, as is Jeff, and has his own agency. And Joe is out of Chicago, was with 24 years with Beam Suntory, and had a variety of experiences and responsibilities in both marketing, sales, but also steeped in operations. And so really speaks a lot of different beverage languages. So together we all work really hard to bring a cohesive but a challenging viewpoint to our clients' issues. I was thinking about how to condense distributor management strategy into sort of a digestible session today. And what I'd like to consider the goal to be is to help you think critically about how an effective distributor management practice and distributor strategies will absolutely enhance your brand and business. Because at the end of the day, it is all about growing your brand, which will grow your business. Today, whenever some industry expert like me, who's faking it, comes up and starts talking, we say, hey, we live in this very complex world, and things have changed, and you got to really pay attention. But I really do believe that here in the early part of the 21st century, things have really changed in beverage alcohol. And I've been in this industry now for over 30 years, started in the beer business in Chicago. And, from what I learned at the knee of grizzled old brewers and distributor owners in Chicago, and route sales truck drivers, that world of camaraderie, the world of building relationships, it's still there, but there is a lot that really dominates our lives as operators and as owners. As we are in a crowded and competitive and ever-changing marketplace. You can read the trades every day. Uh, wine coolers and RTDs are infringing on beer. Spirits is infringing on everybody. And if you're a winemaker right now, you're trying to figure out, are young people really going to ever drink wine, right? And in the beer world, we've seen a lot of sort of uncontrollables, right, affect the business over the last couple of years, whether that's bad strategic decisions or just tastes change. So it's critical that we as business owners and as brand owners really keep our ear to the ground and be aware of what's going on around us, not just what's going on at us. And I'm coming at this with one big assumption, which is you all are probably doing exceptionally well in your home market, whether that's a block in a city or a county or the whole state or a region. But expanding beyond sort of your home market is what is going to help you sustain your brand and your business's growth. And so being able to effectively sort of be able to look into that cloudy crystal ball and determine not only why and how, but where to scale your brand is going to determine your long-term success. And as we're going through the conversation today, I'd also like you to have in the back of your mind, think a little bit about one other big change that's going on, and that is the world of accountability. One of the things back 30 years ago and even 20 years ago, when you sent your brand and your cases off to a distributor, they kind of took care of things, right? They knew the market, they managed the market, they basically patted you on the head and said, "Don't worry, we'll take care of it for you." But today's business has changed. Distributors are really logistics companies. They're not brand builders. They're looking to you and your team to build your own brand. And they are holding you accountable. They're holding you accountable for data. So you better know what your business is about and who your competition is. They're holding you accountable for engagement. They may not return your phone calls, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep trying, and you shouldn't hold them accountable, for a lot of the things we're about to talk about. But you're also accountable for awareness of what is going on in your other markets, awareness of what your distributors, market share is and what their strategies are, because all of these activities that you really don't have control over will control your business. And so really taking kind of an accountability approach to building your brand in these new markets is going to help you from day one. So what is distributor management strategy? Well, our theory at Brand Elixir is fairly simple, is that a distributor management practices are a summation of a lot of things that are going on. They're not isolated, separate pieces, but they're interconnected to the whole environment and architecture of your business and your brand, right? So it starts with a strategic plan. When you're building your brewery, when you're crafting your beer, you've got in the back of your head, if you haven't put it down on paper, at least your brain is telling you, this is what I want to do long term. This is why I'm brewing this beer, and this is where I want to take it. And that has implications in terms of what your distributor management strategies are going to be. Just like your product plan, right? What your portfolio is going to look like. Just like a consumer plan, how do I talk to my consumers, right? You don't just throw stuff onto Instagram and TikTok and Facebook because you feel like it. You do it with a strategy and a concerted plan to attract the right consumers, right? To attract the people that you want engaged in your brand, not only on a trial basis, but on an ongoing adoption basis. And you also have a route to customer plan, right? I mean, you should. You should be thinking through, where do I want this, served? What does my on-premise environment look like beyond my own tasting room? What does the retail environment look like? Beyond how many cases do I stack on the floor, or can I buy or can I afford, a refrigerator door? And all of those, sort of summate and sum up to be components to your distributor management plan, which also is a distinctly thought out and planful approach to the business. And we'll get into that in a little bit. So, we believe that there are some fundamental building blocks to distributor management. So there are things you can do, right, in your business that help you push toward effective management strategies for your distributor. And among those, and there are a lot, but the ones that we've really centered on are 6 building blocks. The first is pricing for profit, and we'll talk about that. There's metric setting. There's market execution, which kind of ties into managing the market. So what does the marketplace look like? And you are responsible for that, even though you may not be physically selling in the marketplace. And then the last 2 are the performance learnings. And then as a result, right, the end, not the means, but the end is, having done all those things correctly, achieving profitable volume. And I'm going to go into these a little bit in detail as we go through here today. So the first topic here is pricing for profit. And what I mean by that is really George Garvin Brown, who was the founder of Brown-Forman. He was actually the inventor of the clear bottle. He was the very first distiller to put whiskey in a clear bottle, which was really a quality claim. The reason for the brown jugs is in the 17 and 1800s, you might start with a little bit of whiskey, but there was a lot of snake oil and other things that went in there. And what George Garvin Brown said is that all goods worth price charge. He stood by the quality of his distillation. He showed it to his consumers through a clear bottle, and he priced accordingly. And I think that's a really good lesson for us today, because you do need to price to profit. You need to understand, your cost of goods, certainly, but you also have to be aware of managing your margins, because low margin goods do tend to stay low margin goods, right? Higher margin pricing, it protects you against competitive pressures, because there's always going to be somebody who discounts against you, right? And it also protects you against regulatory and state controls, right? Laws that crop up, or if you're selling in a control state, things that doesn't really affect beer very much. But you're going to have market competitive forces and market forces that are going to really sort of be headwinds to pricing. And so by ensuring that you have a high enough, gross margin and internal margin to begin with, helps you not only support your brand, but weather those storms. And you do need to understand the pricing within the value chain, right? What are those retail margins? And I'm not talking markup, I'm talking margin. What are retail margins? What are your distributors requiring these days? What do you require in order to be able to be a sustainable business? And then one of the things we talk about with our clients a lot is your break-even point. And I'll show you that in the next slide. But why the break-even point is important is because it gives you a very quick hack, if you will, to use modern language, to a quick hack to understand the cost of doing business in your marketplace. Because you're probably hit time and time again by a distributor. Hey, if you can support this thing or event or sponsorship for X $1,000, I can grow your business, 20%. And that sounds really good, but boy, if you're only making $1 a case, and he wants you to to spend $10,000, are you gonna be able to push 10,000 cases through that event or through that market in a year? And that's the things we encourage our clients to think about. So strong margins enable you to build your brand, support retail programs, take advantage of those unique opportunities that will drive growth, right? That once in a lifetime, or that unique opportunity when you could beat competition or get the feature, at the account, or be the title sponsor. Having those strong margins help you do that. The other thing it does is, by having strong margins, that you can, helps you keep your distributor engaged and focused on building your brand. So many times, I've been in front of distributors, and they know what margins they're making across brands. And somebody who's making 10 or 15 more points on brand X versus brand Y, the distributor will move to brand X all the time, because at the end of the day, he needs to make margin as well. So let's talk about this. The break-even analysis, again, is sort of your back of the pocket hack, and it's very simple, right? You start with your gross profit per case. All your input costs less your FOB equals your GP, and you divide that into a cost of any program, and that tells you the number of incremental cases you need to cover the cost. And it's just a good way to just sort of be able to be aware of the demands that are being placed on you by your own sales force, or by distributors, or even by retailers that are asking you to invest in their business. Because it may feel good to invest in a sponsorship or an incremental program, but if you can't make money on it, is it really going to be worthwhile, right? Because unlike Cy Sims, where they lose money on every sale but make it up on volume, those times don't exist anymore. So I'll leave this up for a minute and just let you take some notes. But again, break-even analysis is sort of step number one, and also being able to manage your distributor effectively. The other piece here is metric setting. And as the Mad Hatter said in Alice Through the Looking Glass, right? If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. But if you don't have a strategy, any direction will get you there. So why is that important? Well, you know your brand, and distributors know their marketplace. And at the end of the day, distributors are in the inventory management business. They're not in the brand building business. They're not even in the I want to build a relationship and be your friend business, because they are managing inventory, they're managing logistics, and they're watching the bottom line. And they're measuring the number of cases, the number of kegs, the volume that's going through their warehouse, in order to ensure that they're making their margins. And so they've got their own metrics for you. So, the world of the distributor is filled, right? As consolidation has happened over the last 15, 20 years, they have a lot of SKUs to manage, and too many SKUs that aren't moving through the system hurt their margins. And so the first thing they're going to be looking at for you is how are you helping them turn your inventory in their warehouse? And if you are turning that inventory effectively, you will get a lot of attention from the distributor in the good way. Like, let's do more work together. Like, I want to order more product. Versus, your cases are collecting dust. What are you going to do to help move them out? So setting metrics for your market, for your distributor, are really, really, really important. And what I mean by that is, everybody has the dream to sell 1 million cases, but the smart brand builder understands the size of the market and the size of the opportunity. And by sitting down with your distributor and setting metrics that are, again, smart, we'll talk about that in a minute, is only going to make it easier for you to control your destiny. And it's going to make it very easy for the distributor, right, to execute against your goals and your plans. And so maybe many of you have heard this before, but SMART goals are really specific. What do you want to do? Measurable. How long? How often? They're achievable, right? So it's not a million cases in 6 months, but hey, over 6 months, we need to do, we need 200 cases in 17 stores, and it has to be relevant, and it has to be time bound. So let me give you an example. I'm just making this up, right? So you're sitting there with a distributor, and a new quarter is about to emerge. And so what do you want to achieve? Well, maybe you want to achieve off-premise accounts, right? You want to grow your off-premise accounts from 100 to 150. Or you want to increase your sales per point of distribution from 4 to 7 cases a week. All of these can be measured. All of these are specific. All of these are time bound, right? Or you want to look at your A accounts, right? Your top performing accounts, and you charge your distributor with, gaining, 20 10K stacks displays in your top accounts, right? And how is that relevant and time bound? You're going to review the progress every 3 weeks for the quarter, right? And by the way, in order to help you, Mr. Distributor, put more focus on my business, I'm going to give you an incentive of, for every display, $5 a case, or for every case that increases over 4, we'll give you an incentive of $2.50 a case. Whatever way you want to build your incentives, could be a trip to the brewery, could be free T-shirts, whatever it is. But getting the distributor to focus on these SMART goals is the first way to get the metrics in place, but also to start to hold accountability for yourself, your team, and your distributor. The next area is this managing execution to achieve profitable volume. So Tom Peters, one of my, and Jim Collins, two of my great, business heroes, smart guys, in Good to Great, Tom Peters had a quote, is inspect what you expect. And it couldn't be more simple, and it couldn't be more correct. That if you want to grow your business 300 cases in quarter 3, you better be measuring it. Because if you don't, it's not that important, right? So, distributors are looking to you, right, to provide direction. What is the focus, right? What do you want us to do? What do you want your brand to look like at the end of the day? What are the 3 things in this marketplace that you want us to do? Because they can't do everything, right? They've got too many SKUs. They've got too many priorities. So if you can truly narrow down the focus and the priorities for your distributor, chances are pretty darn good that you'll get that execution, right? And also commitment, right? The more they see you, the more they see your brand. And the more you'll see your brand in the marketplace by knowing, right? It's either yourself or one of your salespeople, but just shipping out orders and never connecting with the distributor is not a good way to build your brand long term. So some thoughts for you. How could you partner with your distributor for more profitable growth? Well, active planning with them, joint planning of SMART goals. You'd be surprised when distributors actually have the owners of the suppliers in, and the suppliers are asking critical questions. That's good for the distributor. They say, hey, this guy is engaged. We want to work with him more. Regular check-ins. It's okay to surprise your distributor. Hey, I'm in the marketplace. I went to, XYZ account. I saw that we still have that tap that you got in last holiday. Thank you very much. Or, hey, I was just at this retailer and we're out of stock, and I thought we were supposed to be in one of, in the 3rd refrigerator door. We're not there. What's going on, right? You can work the market without distributor assistance. Go get your hands dirty, drive around, learn the marketplace. They're going to, they may be surprised and shocked the first time, but they won't be the second time. And then helping the distributor with their own issues. There might be a resistant account. I don't want to take that beer. I don't want that brand, right? You could go in there and introduce yourself and talk to them. Product education to consumers, to retailers, to the distributor sales force are great ways to get people in a soft way to understand your brand and understand your priorities. There's community outreach, right? And also, seldom done here, but if something really good happens with the distributor, send them a note, congratulate them. it goes a long way. When someone says, boy, he really noticed, and he complimented me on a job well done. It's rare these days that suppliers do that. Other ways: host a tasting with the sales team, right? Help with retail execution, build a few displays, spend time listening to retailers, right? It's not all about selling, right? A lot of times it could be about learning. Get behind the bar, pour your own beers, help the account. And then at the end of the day, right, in terms of distributor management, right, it's how do we apply the learnings, right? So, Edward Deming, the father of measured of work measure and time measure studies, right, had this saying: "Learning is not compulsory, but neither is survival." I mean, it sort of cuts to the heart of, if we're not consistently learning and improving, then we're not moving forward. We believe every interaction is an opportunity to learn. Maybe a bad lesson, might be a hard lesson to learn, but every time you're out in the marketplace, every time you engage with part of the value chain, you're learning, right? More importantly, though, fact-based learning is critical to brand success. And what I mean by fact-based learning, it really means about utilizing the data that's available to you, that you either get from your distributor, you get from your own investment in third-party data, but it helps because data drives insights. Hey, I put that incentive against displays in the last holiday, and our case volume was up 25%. Where was it up 25%? Oh, in mostly independents and not in chains. Great. Let's go back to the distributor and talk about how we can increase activation in independent accounts, or what did we do wrong in chain accounts? What can we learn better? Those insights drive actions, and actions drive results. So, just some examples, right? And by the way, if you ask your distributor for data in the marketplace, chances are pretty good that they will give it to you, right? What are the category trends? What are channel trends? What are brand trends? There's also third-party services that you can enlist, with Nielsen or VIP, to start to attract and collect some of the data that that's necessary for you to build your strategic plans, but also to communicate expectations with distributors. And lastly, right, data and your own personal experiences out there in the marketplace, working with distributors and retailers. We invite our clients to take notes, do active learning, right? Track your wins and losses, right? Try to repeat those market experiences that have been positive, right? That helps you build your anticipation muscles. And it helps you apply your learnings in real time. Because again, it's really more than, brewing award-winning beers. It's really about working the market and working the brand for your long-term success. So I just want to close, and then we can move to questions. But one of my favorite quotes, right, from Thomas Jefferson, was that I find that the harder I work, the more luck I seem to have, and it's really true that it's most especially with distributor management and managing distributors, it's a meritocracy. The work you put in is the results you get out, and you do see those results pretty quickly. So thank you, guys. I probably blew through this pretty quickly, but let's turn it over to getting some questions here. Let me just get out of the system. Can everybody see me here? Okay. Hello, Laura.
Hello. I have some questions for you to get us started, if that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was just wondering, with the SMART goals, when you're working with your distributor and maybe even with a retailer, how often would you set those? How much is too much? And do you just do it once a year? Like what kind of is the time frame that makes sense for those kinds of things?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I probably glossed over it. A bias of ours is really to set an annual plan with your distributor, right? So the chance, January, February are good times to do that, right? With dry January. But you take a look back at the year that just completed, right? We were up here, we were down there, here's the conditions of the business. And then you start to set your goals of what you want to accomplish, whether that's a particular product or your whole product line. But it generally takes into account what is our pricing strategy, what is our product strategy, and what are the promotions and programs that we want to execute together in order to achieve a particular volume and revenue goal. And then, that's what we do then generally is we use quarter by quarter report cards, right? So no business is a straight line, but there's enough records, there's enough history probably in your businesses that would tell you, hey, we tend to do, and I'm making it up, right? 20% of our business in the first quarter. If I want to do 1,000, if I want to do 100 cases this year, right? I better do 20 cases, in the first quarter. Let's measure that. And then you don't have to be there every month, but when you get the numbers, you can send the report, you can get on the phone. And then what we normally do is have a definitive face-to-face at the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, sort of your H1, H2, and then at the end of the year. Hope that helps.
Gotcha. It does, absolutely. In your experience, do the suppliers often carry the bulk of the promotional expenses, or is that, I know that's specific to your contract, but what's your experience with that? Are some of these specific events or specific sponsorships or specific festivals or specific things that you do as promotions, are any of those solely the supplier in general?
So what we're seeing across product lines, right? Wine, spirits, beer, is that much of the burden of sponsorship and promotion costs tend to get pushed back onto the supplier. Now, there are some distributors that sort of quote unquote own big events, and what they would do is just parcel out the cost to participate, right? But suppliers generally need, are expected to help fund those programs. Now, I know it can be scary. It's like, well, I don't have the money to do that, right? I'm just a small startup, and those are when, again, if you know your GP per case, there's a lot of ways to pay for that, right? You can, again, let's just use a round number of, $1,000 to invest in a program or a sponsorship, and you make $10 a case, right? So that's 100 cases in the real world that this program costs you. Now, you might not be able to drive 100 incremental cases to pay for that $1,000 promotion, but in conversation with your distributor, if you know that if this event is in June, but it's going to carry into new distribution with, XYZ retailer, or it's also going to open doors into new restaurants, you could take that strategic risk and say, I could probably get 100 incremental cases by the end of the year, right? And it's to me, it's the totality of the impact on the business, not a zero-sum game on any deal, right? But it's the reality that I just can't, it may feel good that I get to sponsor Little League, but if I can't afford it in the long term, why am I doing it, to start with? Does that help?
It does. It does. So going a little bit further in the more promotions and specials kinds of things, what value do you put on point of sale? And is it more important to do lots of things? I personally think that sell sheets are of uber importance and should be free. But do you think it's more effective to have smaller things like coasters, keychains, swag, or more the bigger raffle pieces like a camp chair or a surfboard or a snowboard?
Yeah.
Where do you find success there?
Yeah. So to me, it really depends on the strategy, but it also depends on the life cycle of the brand. So I agree with you on sell sheets because you're there to help educate the trade on the brand. we have seen a lot of point of sale go digital. So you can email videos, you can email, PDFs of sell sheets that save you a lot of money. You can also create the art for point of sale, case card, a shelf talker, but leave it up to your distributor to print it, right, when he needs it. So that way you're not wasting money on reams and reams of paper. When it comes to merchandise, POS merchandise items, again, it depends a lot on the strategy. We have a client who is not doing well in on-premise because they don't do anything in on-premise. So we're taking a lot of the budget and creating effective on-premise merchandising items to really force the supplier himself and the distributor to work together to gain on-premise distribution. So coasters, right? But we have a QR code on the coaster that gives consumers instant information about the brand. And then, we are investing in, branded bar mats and, table tents and also what we call rescue bar kits, which are, this one brand has an outdoor theme. And so we've packed these Herschel backpacks with t-shirts and hats and recipe cards and brand information and coasters and keychains as a way to get just, really the bartenders and the service staff excited about the brand. So they'll try it and they'll become they'll become advocates. The last thing I'll say is one of the other things. In fact, I'm just in a meeting this afternoon with the sales force, and it was a great idea these guys came up with. Are you guys familiar with challenge coins? So challenge coins are they're military. Well, they're based in the military, which were campaign coins, which were commemorative metal discs coins that are commemorative of a unit or a battalion or a battle of some kind, and to be given one of these is an honor, right? It's not a medal to wear, but it's an honor to be a part of the unit. And what a lot of brands have done, in fact, 10 years ago, it was Fernet Branca, which is an Italian Amaro, a liqueur, started giving these out to distribute to bartenders, because how many cases of Amaro, of a bitter, can you sell in a year? Right. But started giving these really collectible campaign medals to bartenders because they were just cool to collect and to trade. Well, what the sales force is doing is we're going to create campaign medals, campaign coins for the bartender, but we're gonna brand poker chips. And what we're going to do is we're going to give, in a target account, we're going to give 25 poker chips to a bartender. And what that really is a code that we've actually bought for the staff. We've bought 25 cocktails or 25 beers or 25 glasses of wine that we've already paid for it, that they can go out on consumers who they think would like our brand. They'll actually give them the poker chip and say, this is on, it has the brand logo on it, but we want to give you a drink. We want to give you a taste of this product. And so it's a great way. And so, the consumer walks away with a poker chip, remembers who the brand is. What a great way to use point of sale, right? Liquid to lips.
Yeah. Funny thing I was just seeing in an Instagram or social media post that there's a brewery who does those same kinds of coins that says, I kicked the keg. And so that's a free drink on your next visit. Similar. Yeah. Very, very interesting.
Just to finish your question though, Laura, I do personally, this is Andy's view of the world. I think on-premise point of sale is critical, right? Because there's sensory overload there. It's, if you walk into a crowded bar, you can't see all the signage, but you can see a little message on a coaster. You can see a message or a brand name on a napkin. You can look over at the table tent and go, oh, I haven't had that Imperial Stout before. Maybe I should try that. So all the hints, all the help, all the guideposts that could lead a consumer right to the bar, to the back bar, to the tap is, I think, is important.
So to follow up that, how do you feel the importance kind of ranks in terms of doing tastings with the on-premise staff? Do you think that's super important to do?
I do. I think that since you're relying so much on your distributor sales force to get the job done, the more hands-on, tactical, and intellectual knowledge about the brand your sales force has, the more effective they're going to be. In my old days in corporate life, we spent a lot of time educating distributors in the trade. We spent a lot of time. We would drag winemakers to dinners. We would drag winemakers to help make sales. We put winemakers and distillers and brewers in the car with our sales folks, whether they're retail or on premise, to learn, to teach them about the brand, to literally touch and feel the people who make the product. And it helps. It really does.
I think if you've tried something, you speak from a different place than if you're just memorizing it.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same way with off-premise accounts? And I wonder too, when you, the supplier, the brewer, the brewery representative, are riding with or are working with distribution representatives who may not want to take that time or bring samples with to do tastings, kind of how do you manage that? I mean, it's important, right?
Yeah, and so the challenge that we have here is that so much of retail is centralized today, right? That there is a buyer sitting at a desk in a far off location, generally making the decisions, right, for store managers and merchandisers hundreds of miles away. And so it really, yeah, so really it's a coordinated effort where, let's do this. Giant Eagle, right, up near where you are, and Ohio. I think they sell beer. You might you as the owner, it's probably worth the investment of your time to meet with the head beer buyer at Giant Eagle, right? But it's equally important for you or your salespeople to be at that local Giant Eagle with the beer or the beverage director, convincing him and explaining to him why you need to take my brand in, right? It may be a mandatory or it may be an optional to bring those in, but it really is, when I talk value chain, that's one of the things I'm talking about. Is the value chain of an account is not just the guy who puts it in the refrigerator or stacks it on the floor. It starts with the buyer, and it has to go to the head merchandiser for that set of stores, and it has to go to the store manager. And yeah, it's an exhausting, hard way to get the job done. But think about it, as hard as it is to get your case into the store, generally, if you've done it right, it's really hard to get rid of it as well. So, once you're in, that's the goal. Then you can massage and you can manage and you can help them grow your brand effectively.
Yeah. How do you, as the supplier, how do you help communicate between retailers and the distributor? Do you often see that that's directly to the sales rep? Is that more to a sales manager? How do you usually see that happen?
That's a really good question. Again, so much of the world today is compartmentalized, where the distributor really, doesn't let you get in front of those buyers unless there's a problem, right? So, going back to understanding your marketplace and understanding what your strategies are, you might be a brewer that says, I don't need to be in a multi-state chain grocery store, right? What I want to be is primarily on premise because my beer is fresh. I want to be serving out of the tap, and I want to go to local retailers, independents that, where it takes me, I have to go back more often to refill the refrigerator, but I know them and they're open to education. We're doing that now. I mean, I've got another client where we're not that interested in chain business. We're willing to take the long, slow road of focusing on independent retail and independent on premise in order to start to get the message across. Because we do know that as brands scale, right, and your turnover, rapidly increases in independence, the major chain retailers are going to notice it, and they're going to call for an appointment. The other thing, though, is as well as you do at independence, your distributor is going to notice, and that gives you credibility to say, hey, maybe it's time that we have an appointment at Giant Eagle or at Safeway or at Albertsons. Because look at what we're doing with all these little small guys, and we can't keep it in stock. Mm-hmm. And that gives you the leverage with the distributor to say, now it's time for you to pay attention. Let's go together. And then, and that has worked to the distributor will drag you along as the owner and say, hey, this is Laura, owner of the brewery, and her brand is doing great. We want to talk to you about bringing it into Giant Eagle or, whatever.
It sounds like you're proving yourself over and over. You're proving yourself maybe by self-distribution before you can get that contract. And then you're proving yourself in some independent stores in order to kind of earn that chain store trust.
Tito Beveridge, who founded Tito's, right? He's a 25-year overnight success. Now, I know this is a different category, but think about 30 years ago where, everything was vodka. So he is fighting an uphill battle. He personally, right? He would talk to the distributor. He would talk to the retailer. You know what he did for sponsorships because he didn't have much money? He gave product away. He gave the product away. I'm not going to spend $100,000 on South by Southwest, but I'll back the Tito's truck up and you can have as many bottles as you want. Again, another hint, another way to try something different. But again, here you have an entrepreneurial leader who believes in his product, and he's going to think outside the box and try different things in order to scale it.
Okay, one more question, kind of following up on the retailer zone. Do you feel that smaller craft beer brands do better by going, if they're self-distributing or if they're with distribution, I guess, do they push more for every possible liquor license within an area, or do they push more for bigger specialty stores, or maybe not necessarily bigger, but stores that focus more on specialty products? What's your strategy there?
So we've worked with brands that self-distribute, and they self-distribute for a long time. I mean, one of the great things about self-distribution is you're not losing margin, right? You're not losing 28% to a distributor. So you can keep those margin dollars and reinvest in your business. I think the way to answer the question is what is your strategy? What do you want to be when you grow up? Okay. And there is nothing wrong as a craft brewer to say, I want to own every mom and pop bar, and I'm going back, my years in Wisconsin. I want to own every mom and pop bar, around Green Bay. I want to be in every independent liquor store, or I just want to be in the small regional chains. I'm thinking like a Woodson's, right, which is in Milwaukee, but it's also in Northwest Illinois. But you need to have a strategy, and going everywhere is not a strategy, right? That's spreading peanut butter, right? So it's, and the thing is, you can change your strategy over time, but again, we think being focused, being consistent, and sticking to a strategy is going to deliver results for you that will give you the benefit and the opportunity to expand and also to explore new opportunities. So many times we see, and again, it doesn't matter whether it's a beer a wine or a spirit, we really see a lack of focus because there's this need to, I got to be big and I got to grow fast versus I got to grow right.
Mhm.
And if we can convince, our clients to grow correctly, right, follow your strategy and execute in those in the channels that meet your brand strategy, you're going to do a lot better, right? I mean, if you're a high-end $100 bottle bourbon, you're not going to the to the dive bars. You're going to go to white tablecloth restaurants. You're going to go to the high-end independent retailers that have, bourbon stewards. That means that there's not that many of them, but it does mean you're going to get the focus that you need.
Right. More of those hand sales.
Yeah.
Excellent. So bottom line is take the time to craft the plan and then walk and execute the plan.
Right. Remember that concentric circles. It started as, what's my strategic plan, right? What do I want to be? And then from there, you can drill down into a product plan and a consumer plan and a trade plan.
Right.
And all of those summate, they all really distill down to, all those components become your distributor management plan. And distributor management is really easy when you know what you want to be when you grow up.
So take the time to figure that out.
Well, it changes, right? I wanted to be a fireman when I was younger, but the point I'm trying to make here is that, again, as we said, as Lewis Carroll said, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
Right.
Everybody knows what they want to be. Just put it in writing, focus in on it, and execute against that plan.
Sounds good. Is that a good famous last words for this wrap up?
I think it would be, yeah. And I cannot thank you enough. This is fun. It's always good to see you. And I hope we were able to help a few people today. I'm
absolutely sure that we were. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you again to Andrew and Amanda for partnering with us at Craft Beer Professionals. And Andy, thank you. If somebody wants to reach you, how would they reach you best?
They can reach me at andy@brandelixirpartnership.com.
Excellent. Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And I look forward to the next time we get to visit.
Absolutely. Take care, Laura. Have a good rest of the week.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.